What's up, everyone? It's Andre here with the NASM Peak Physique Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Latorya Watts, two-time Figure Olympia champion, and one of the most dominant physiques the sport has ever seen. We're talking elite mindset, championship standards, and what it really takes to stay at the top year after year. Let's go ahead and get into it, and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. See you soon.
Welcome to the Peak Physique Podcast, hosted by IFBB Olympian and NASM Master Trainer Andre Adams. This show delivers elite strategies and cutting-edge techniques to build your best body yet.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the NASM Peak Physique Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Adams, NASM Master Trainer and IFBB Physique Olympian. Today, we've got a very special treat for you. One of my close friends. She is a two-time Miss Figure Olympia, multiple-time Arnold Classic champion, and she's known for not just her crazy physique, but also that relentless work ethic and consistency. Welcoming to the show for the very first time, Latorya Watts.
Hi, Andre. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on, young lady?
Nothing much. Enjoying this beautiful day over here in Las Vegas. 70 degrees, I believe.
Yeah, we got to have lunch and catch up a little bit. It was actually chilly when I was there, though. So it sounds like it's a little bit warmer today.
Well, when you left, it got warmer because I told you every time you come, you bring
That's for real. I'll bring the cold with me. So we know now. Well, good. So Latoria, today we're going to dive into a little bit of history for all of those that maybe don't know your story, because as you and I know, the sport has grown so much, and it's like everything moves so fast that, you know, if they're just getting maybe into the sport for the first time, not everyone knows your backstory. So this will be a really fun episode. I want to talk about what inspired you to compete in the very first place, right? Like that whole fitness journey, where was that jump off point? And then we'll talk about, you know, how you were able to win the Olympia, not once, but twice. What was the mindset, motivation, training, and all that fun stuff that comes along with it. So let's jump off there. You know, let's go into your backstory a little bit. This is a fun one for me, right? I always like to think about early life and what was that like initial introduction to fitness. You know, mine was like, I was like 12 years old. My dad didn't compete, but he was like a freak of nature, you know, probably to this day, one of the pound for pound strongest guys I knew, you know, more in the, like, I would call it like power building, right? So he like lifted heavy weights, had an awesome physique. And that was like my thing. That's what inspired me at a young age to start. What was that like for you? Who was your inspiration and how did you get started in fitness?
Well, fitness fell in my lap totally fell in my lap. I did have family members, my uncles. My uncles were really into fitness and lifting, not competitive at all, but they were really into it as far as the aesthetics. They loved the look of it, you know, like being in the gym all the time, eating right. They knew all the things to do, but that wasn't something that interested me at all. It was more when I came, and this was back when I was living in Georgia. I come from Georgia, born and raised in Georgia, came to Las Vegas, found myself in the gym, but not to compete, not to lift, not to do anything competitive at all. Just found myself in the gym and ran into a promoter, and he just showed me a flyer, said, "Hey, I think this is something you might be interested in." And I just was like, "Oh, sure." You know, I never thought anything of it, and I really didn't take interest in it until a little bit later. But I did that. I decided to go into the competition, went into the competition, not knowing what to compete in, not knowing anything really about the divisions or anything. So I went into the bikini. Got into the bikini competition. At the time, I believe this was 2009, and I believe this is when bikini started, the actual division started. Got into that show, a local show in Las Vegas, won that show, and then the bug kind of got me from there. The bug came from there. I met the right people, right? And then they kind of were pushing me into another division, not necessarily saying it outright, but kind of wanting me to probably take interest into something else. But before all of this, I never had any type of experience. I was not athletic in school. There were coaches actually, or PE teachers, I should say, when I was in high school that always wanted to push me into track, wanted to push me into some type of sport. But I mean, I just was more of I don't want to say lazy student, but I wasn't a student that took on to any sports or anything like that. So I wasn't athletic. I didn't come from any type of background like that at all.
Yeah. And you know what? That speaks volumes too, because a lot of people, they're maybe afraid, right? As they grow up and they get a little older, they're like, I don't know. I never was really great at sports as a kid, or I never really found my thing. But you're a perfect example of somebody who maybe didn't recognize that, you know, that you had that within yourself. And then you come out to be one of the greatest figure athletes of all time. Right. So you just never know. I mean, for me, it's funny, right? I'm like kind of the opposite, where I started lifelong athlete. I was always competitive. I was that dude in like first grade that was challenging the fifth and sixth graders to race. And I still run into people today. They're like, I remember you in like elementary school. And they're like, you're always wanting to race people. So it's like, it's maybe for some people, it's just innate, right? It's something that you're born with, that you just want to compete. You don't care if it's racing, if it's playing cards, or if it's weightlifting. Whereas others, sometimes you discover something special within yourself over time. And a lot of times it takes the right circumstances or the right people around you to bring that out.
And that's exactly
that's really cool. Yeah. Now, let's take it back. You mentioned Georgia. I don't think I knew that. So Georgia, my dad's side is actually from the Somerville and Rome area, and I've got family in Atlanta. What part of Georgia are you from?
I am from Warner Robins, Georgia. That's probably about an hour and a half south of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Macon. I think people are more familiar with Macon, Georgia. So I'm right outside.
Yeah.
But a true Southern country girl for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Well, see, it all makes sense. So who knows? Maybe our families knew each other at some point. But
probably.
Yeah. But how cool is that? Now, did anyone else in your family? You mentioned your uncles. Like, did you notice, like, especially now looking back and reflecting, did you notice anyone else with like similar genetics, where they just, you know, responded very well to weight training or similar?
In my family?
Mm-hmm. In your family?
Well, unfortunately, my dad passed away at a young age, but growing up around his family and other people that were able to grow up around him were like, my dad had those genetics. My dad and his twin sister, they actually had those same genetics. His twin sister, my aunt, Claritha, who's passed away, she was in track. So she was a track athlete herself. So I think that genetics obviously just came over to me. So I'm very blessed of that. But it was always something that I've noticed in my body as well. Like I knew that my shape was different. I knew my structure was different. And because of that, I covered up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I would say I was insecure of my physique, funny enough. I was very insecure, always covered up, wear big pants and big shirts. I just knew I looked different. I didn't know why or what parts of me. I just knew I just looked different.
Mm-hmm. You were jacked. She was putting the pump covers on. So, and that, hey, look, here's the thing is like, this is why I always love bodybuilding too, because just think about what you just said. And it's like, bodybuilding has given us a platform to really embrace and love our bodies. You know, now there's times, right, if people struggle with body image and dysmorphia, it can work against you. But in our cases, it's like it gave us a platform where we could really push our limits, you know, try to grow and actually flourish and reach our potential and really just love your body. So love it, right? That's what the sport is here for. Let's walk back to those early competitions, because a lot of people, again, they maybe don't realize that you started in bikini, the early days of bikini, which means by today's standards, it would have been like the fit model posing.
Yes, it was the fit model posing, because like I said, it was 2009, and I competed. I would say I tried to hold on to that division for about 3 years. I competed in 2009, 2010, and then early part of 2011, and trying to come down. Oh my God, it's just funny how a certain division is for you, because you're trying to come down to that bikini look, which had probably established its criteria more so maybe in 2011, and I was totally out of it. But I wanted to stick with bikini. I loved it. I thought it was very feminine and very pretty, probably a little bit more dainty than I would be, but I felt like that was the challenge for me. So I wanted to really stick it out. So 2011 was the last time I competed. I think I placed last, and continuing to place last in bikini. I mean, obviously I was like, all right, I need to do something else. I want to do something else. But the next division for me would be figure. And I just was thinking, oh my God, it looks too masculine, right? I was thinking that's too much muscle. I don't want all that muscle. It's going to take away from, the bikini look that I desired so much. So I really was fighting against it. But the coach that I had at the time, Manny, my coach, he was just like, no. He was like, no, let's just slowly work on that. Let's slowly build your physique up. Let's just see what happens. And, he had some figure competitors himself, and I got to know them and meet them and see them in person, right? Because you see everything online and you see everything in a magazine, but seeing that actual physique in person, you're like, these girls are tiny, right? You see, they're just structured so perfectly, right? They have that perfect X frame, and everything just sits so perfectly on the physique. That is what inspired me and motivated me to go ahead and pursue figure.
Yeah, and just for maybe some of the new people that are on the call that don't understand, in fact, I just had this pop up. I think yesterday we had a masters. I'm gonna call her masters bikini competitor for right now, but it's her first exposure to the sport, and she actually came in for a physique assessment, and she wasn't sure where should I, compete. And for you guys that are maybe new to it, things that we're looking for is going to be X frame versus hourglass, right? Hourglass being a little bit softer, a little bit, more waist, but we'll say less exaggerated X frame. So for figure, we like to see those wide clavicles, right? Yep. We like to see that small, tight waist. But to your point, in pictures, I feel like the stage definitely makes everyone look, 10 to 15 pounds more muscular than they are in real life.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's probably intimidating when you're just starting out and you're like, I think I like figure, but I can never get that big.
Yeah. I always thought, I was like, I'll never, not even just get that big. It was more for me. I would never get that lean. Right, I would never be able to diet that hard. I would never. Like going to my first Olympia competition just as a spectator, I just was like, there's no way I would never be on that. I would never be on that stage. There's no way I can look like that.
Yeah. And look at you, right? And that's exactly what you did. And then you beat those girls. So talk about become things, right? So it's amazing though what you can really do. I mean, that's something that we should probably talk more about. Just to give you a little idea, I don't know if I ever told you, Latoria, my background before I came to physique, because as you know, men's physique hasn't been around forever. It was like the 2012-ish time frame, somewhere in there,
right,
when it was really starting to grab hold. And prior to that, my background was in powerlifting. And it's so crazy now to look back where I started all those years ago. We're talking like 20 years ago. And I was competing intentionally at 165 pounds. Like naturally, I was like 175 to 180 pounds back then. This is my early 20s. And I would cut down to 165 because pound for pound, no one could touch me there. Okay. And I actually won 21 consecutive first place. And I had a bunch of national records, a ton of state records. 2011, I was Sunlight Power pound for pound best lifter at nationals. And so it was crazy. Like my physique was tailored for 165. And then men's physique came out. And so I'm like, hey, this sounds like something I can do. I know I don't have this mass monster gene. Like I can't look like Ronnie, but I'm pretty sure I can be a pretty good physique athlete. And so I crossed over to physique, and I would compete in men's physique as an amateur, probably like 175 to 180 pounds. And then as a pro, closer to 190 was my stage weight. But when I switched to classic, which came out in 2016, I had to put on a lot of density. So I actually took a year and a half, almost 2 years off. And I went from that 190 pounds stage weight up to 243 in my off season, and then cut it back down to about 205 for my classic debut. And it's like, it's crazy to think what you can do with your body, right? So that was like an 80 something pound spread between where I started, where I went. And you started in bikini, you went to Figure Olympia champion, things that just don't commonly happen.
Yeah, don't commonly happen. Yeah, because to be competitive, or my thoughts of being competitive in bikini, I had to come down a lot, probably in the 120s.
Yeah.
Right. And then being able to put on that muscle and finally be in a division where it made sense and I felt good in my body, I would compete probably about 140.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Especially with the amount of density that you carry.
Yeah.
What was the mindset when you think back to those first setbacks, we'll call them, even when you were bikini or maybe early on in your figure career, how did you stay motivated without getting discouraged in the beginning?
It was all fun for me. So that's where I feel like it was different for me, because again, I'm going into something that I never planned on being in. So competing and just taking it day by day, and then getting with the right coach and being with the right individuals and training for that, that was just fun for me. It was just a fun journey. So I would say my mindset pretty much all the way up to winning Olympia was always just positive. This is fun. This is a game for me. This is a challenge for me, something that I never saw myself doing, which made it even more exciting. How much better can I get? How much better can I get? How much better can I get? That's all I was thinking the entire journey. Like, what else can I do? You know, everybody it was always the talk of being Miss Olympia, but that wasn't something that was on the forefront. It was more of, I just want to be competitive. I just want to be in the mix. I just want to be seen. I just want to, you know, be taken serious. And that's what my mindset was competing.
Yeah. And it's like, I think that motivation shifts over time. In the beginning, maybe we're trying to prove something to other people, right? To show that we're worthy, that yes, we can do this. Yes, I belong here. I've arrived. But that actually shifts over time to more of an intrinsic motivation of trying to be better than you were yesterday. Let's see how far I can take this and still have fun while I'm doing it.
Absolutely. That was me the entire time.
Yeah. It's crazy. The first time I met Ronnie Coleman back in the days, probably like, I don't know, 2016, 2017. And I remember I was just getting ready to do my Pro Classic Physique debut. And I'm like looking for this magic like diet. Tell me this magic supplement. I'm like, I'm going to ask Ronnie all these questions. And I remember we were at Olympia or the Arnold, one of the two. And I finally connected with Ronnie. And I'm like, all right, Ronnie. I was like, tell me one thing that's going to take me to the next level. I got my crossover to Classic coming up here in a couple months. And I'm like, I got my notebook. I'm like ready to write down. And Ronnie literally sat back and smiled at me. And he told me, Andre, just have fun. And I'm like, that's it? And he's like, no, really. He's like, just have fun. He's like, as long as you're having fun, you're going to be unstoppable. And when he said it, it didn't register. It took a couple months for that to sit in. And as I sat with that, and especially as I got older throughout my career, the more I recognized exactly what he meant by that. Like, as long as you're having fun, you're not going to stop. You're going to be relentless, right? And you're going to do very well because you're not going to stop pushing closer to the goal or stop pushing your limits.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about some things. Let's talk about the grind. This is going to be a good one.
Okay.
And this is good for maybe people that don't know what's involved. Maybe they're new to the sport, thinking about giving up, or they're thinking about one day competing themselves.
Okay.
So let's talk about the grind. What are some things that maybe people, I will say like behind the scenes sacrifices that they don't think about? Once you flip that switch into competitor mode, what things behind the scenes go unnoticed that you might have to sacrifice?
I don't want to say fun. I mean, of course, that was going to be the main thing I was going to say is sacrifice, but I wouldn't say fun so much, because you can still make fun of it. In the early stages of me competing, I had those big sacrifices. And yes, I would say, oh my God, I can't have fun now. It's so strict. I got to do this. I got to do that. But it's not about that. I mean, you have to find a balance. But the behind the scenes sacrifices, of course, is family time, right? I know there's a lot of competitors out there that probably have husbands, wives, and kids, and that is going to be sacrificed. I mean, because if this is something you want to do, something you enjoy, and something you want to be competitive in, and you want to be good at it, you are going to have those sacrifices. There are going to be those date nights you can't take. There are going to be those vacations you can't go on. There are going to be activities you don't want to do, because there's stuff that I like to do. Like, for instance, snowboarding, right? You have to be careful. You don't think of those things, but you have to be careful if you're a competitor, right? You don't want to go out there and hurt yourself. And now you're what? Now you're 2 weeks out from, or 2 weeks behind schedule, because now you can't train, or you can't be at your full potential when it comes to that. What are some other sacrifices? I mean, mainly I would say the biggest one would be the family, right? Because I know that took away a lot from me, right? Time with my husband. I mean, we would be home together. We would find that balance, and we would make time. It comes. You have to find that balance eventually, but that all takes time, and it comes. But those are huge sacrifices, I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%, right? It's really the social aspect, because not everyone's going to understand what we do. And this is where like having a really close like circle of people, building that community that supports and understands what you do is very important. And that can look different for everybody. Some people, both spouses are into bodybuilding, right? Maybe
Yep.
Either both compete, or maybe the other one doesn't compete, but they diet and they go to the gym regularly, right? That can make it a lot easier, but not everyone's going to understand what we do, right? This is an extreme sport by all means.
Absolutely.
And that can be tough, right? So when we're talking about sacrifices, sleep, let's go into that, right? But we're on prep. As much as we fully understand as well as anyone that sleep is essential to recovery,
Yes.
avoiding overreach and burnout. But the reality is we still got to work. We still got to make money and put food on the table, put a roof over our head. And so you're trying to juggle these things, right? As cardio starting to progress, and maybe you're waking up at 4 a.m. to do your fasted cardio, or you're here in Wisconsin, you're waking up 4 a.m. to shovel snow, right?
all
And then,
all these things add up. Everything adds up.
It does. And the crazy thing, when I first qualified for Olympia, my girls I was doing a single dad thing back then, and my girls were 1 and 3. And so I had 50-50 placement. The girls would be with me 50% of the time. And no joke, I would have to, round them up from daycare after work, and then, try to get home, shovel the snow if it's in the wintertime, cook dinner, give them baths and all that. I wouldn't actually start my cardio and my training until they're in bed. So maybe 9 p.m. And now it's like, all right, now I got to get to work. And, that's where, like, I always, even today, I'll reference like going back to the basement, because it was the home gym back then.
Yes.
So it's like, we become so successful, you forget what got you there. But even now I'm like, all right, we're going back to the basement. Let's go, grind it out.
Right? You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. So definitely some social sacrifices, some sleep at times. And then, Mike Tyson had said it best, right? Is like discipline is doing the things you hate to do, but do it like you love it. Right. Yep. So we're going to train on days that we're tired. We're not going to make excuses, and you just got to do the work. Right. You
just have to put in the work. If that's what you want, that's always the thing that I say. If this is something that you want and you want to be great at, you got to have those sacrifices. But again, as I was saying before, find that balance as well, so it can still be enjoyable. So it's not something you dread.
Right. And a lot of people, I think they talk about balance so much, which of course we're trying to find a balance that allows us to accomplish the goal without completely burning out or ruining other aspects of our life. Right. We don't want to do that. But the reality, if you think about what Tim S. Grover said in his book, I think it was either Relentless or Winning. I love both of those books. And he talks about, being a champion and success, and how everyone refers to it as a sprint. And he's like, it's really not a sprint though, or excuse me, it's really not a marathon. It's really an all-out sprint all the time, right? And when you're in that grind and you're trying to actually make it to the Olympia, we're not just competing for fun at that point, right? We're on a mission.
That's
and
true.
It really is an all-out sprint all the time. That is your marathon in that scenario.
That's very true. Very true. Everything is, the mindset changed. Like the mindset was different for me once I won.
Yeah.
I won that. I mean, it still was fun, but now it's like, all right, this is really go time. This is serious. I'm here to win every single time. And I'm sure, and the thing is, you have to understand that that's everybody's mindset on that stage at that time. Everybody's to win.
Yep. So who is gonna bring the best on that day?
Yeah.
Who willpower is going to, trump everyone else's? Yeah. It's a hard thing. It's a competitive sport. So that's a good point though. Let's talk about that. Once you actually are king of the hill or queen of the hill in your case, how does that mindset, mental toughness under pressure, how does it shift, right? From being the person that's trying to climb the hill to being the person that's already on top of the hill? How did your training, your mindset and everything shift from that point forward?
Let's see. I would say in the beginning stages, when I did win, I mean, a little bit of fun was taken out of it, only because of the standards or what people would say as far as being a Olympia athlete, right? Once you know the words before, when you would win Olympia, people would say, oh, that should be the only show you do. you should always be preparing for that. That took the fun away from me because I became a competitor. I became someone that wanted to compete at multiple shows, and I wanted to do this show, and I want to go to this city, and I want to compete with this person. So a little bit of that was taken away from me. But as far as what the goal was to win every time, I mean, that mindset was there. Everything was just taken a little seriously. Even my coach, even after winning that title, my coach's mindset was so different too. And that's what you were saying earlier, having those people around you that support you and that understand. Well, me and my coach totally tuned in. Like, I would say he was probably a little bit more, I wouldn't say serious, because of course I was serious, but I would say he was a little bit more in tuned. Like, he was a little bit more turned on, and everything was turned on and everything clicked for him, for me to really push and be better every time. That was the goal, right? Just being better every time, taking it day by day, understanding everything, having, really following through with your non-negotiables, and just really doing what you had to do to hold on to that title.
Right.
Like, you had to give everything. Everything just flowed, I would say, for me. Everything flowed for me. I made sure, I was focused in on that. And again, I had the family, I had the support, I had everyone around me that understood, the friends, right? Going back to the sacrifices of not being able to go out with my friends, not being able to really celebrate birthdays the way you would want to. I mean, you could still do those things because, again, it's about balance, but having those people around me to help me focus and help me stay motivated, that's what really helped my mindset to continue to compete and compete to win.
Right. And a lot of people don't realize that when you won, and I think was it 2015, Latoria?
Yes, that was the first one. Yep.
I thought so, because I remember this. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but you defeated a giant in the figure division, right, with Nicole at the time. How many did Nicole win? It was like 3 back-to-back, wasn't it? Maybe more. She
won. I think she has 4 titles.
Yeah, I don't know if they're consecutive.
Consecutive. I think it may have been the 2013, 2014. I believe that was the consecutive wins, because she would go back and forth with Aaron Stern.
That's right. That's right, with Aaron. So I know Nicole was a beast back then, and you kind of, like, in their minds, came out of nowhere. Although in your mind, you're like, hey, hold on a minute, I've been here grinding for a while. Y'all just didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you kind of swept the pro figure stage by storm. And so I competed in 2015 Olympia. I was still men's physique back then. And I don't know if you remember the Olympia dinner, right? It's like with the league would host that dinner at the after party, we'll call it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I remember, you and I hadn't met yet, but I remember watching you on stage, and I was like, wow, like, that girl just came out of nowhere and just blew everybody away. And I honestly wasn't as familiar back then with figure, mostly because I was still relatively new to the sport myself. I'd only been there a couple of years, and I remember seeing you walk around at the party, and I'm like, holy crap, that girl is jacked. I was like, look at her quads. I was like, give me some of those quads. And I remember, like, paying attention to the figure division from that point forward and following your story. But yeah, I actually had seen you right after you won the Olympia at that party. And I think I was probably walking around with some of my friends, or Ashley or somebody. And yeah, I think after you, it kind of shifted what the mold was, like what the standard was for figure, because you and Sid have, very similar, once you're all peaked out, you have kind of similar looks on stage, similar vibes. So I feel like it kind of shifted. It started with you there.
Yeah. Pretty much changed the look.
It did.
Right.
And
I feel
today
like
that look is still there.
Small, shoulders got big, and then it's still evolving. It's still changing. Exactly.
So, and what I love is that we've found a way to, make sure that figure competitors are more developed than bikini. However, the judges have also done a good job of making sure that everyone is staying feminine at that top level, right? And if they're not, they get downscored. But if you look at any of those top girls like yourself, like, that's the beauty in it, is like, muscle is beautiful, and it gives girls that are genetically a little bit more gifted, that put on density a lot easier, a place to really grow and flourish. Yeah. So you touched on something there, Latoria. I want you to go a little deeper on it, and this might be an emotional one for you too. I don't know the full story with your coach. So, how did you? Let's maybe share with our followers what happened with your coach. I know we lost him a few years back. And then how did you mentally overcome that? You know, what was that process like for you?
It was a tough, that was a tough process, right? That was a tough journey for me because he was sick for not a long time, but towards the end of my last few competitions, like 2019, 2020, he was sick, had issues, like kidney issues. Actually, he was going through some medical issues at that time, but being who he is, pretty much kept it quiet, kept him to himself because what? Focus was me, right? So he kind of kept that to himself. Focus was more on me and his other athletes that were competing. I didn't really find out the truth about everything until around COVID time, where he was having challenges then, and even more so because he did experience, unfortunately, having COVID. So he dealt with that, got sick, and towards the end of 2021, December of 2021, he passed away, unfortunately. So of course, me and him have been locked in since he discovered me or seen me at my first competition back in 2009. The first very first competition I did. He saw me then, but then he seen me again in 2010. So one of the head judges there, Ron Sedovic, he introduced us, and we've been locked in since then. So I would say we have grown and developed this relationship that was more of like a brother-sister relationship. Someone I confided in, of course, and gave the keys to. Like, I didn't have to think, didn't have to do anything. I just showed up, did what I was supposed to do, and then we became successful. So with him passing away and not being here, and me knowing something was pretty much off, in 2020, that was my last show, the show that I did in Florida when we all had to go to Florida and compete. He didn't come with me. And that was probably like my first show that I did not have my coach. And of course, I placed fifth, and it showed, right? It showed that I didn't have my support there. I didn't have that person there with me that gave me all the confidence. Again, like I said, I go into the competitions with him doing what I need to do, right? You tell me everything I need to do, I do them. But when it comes to training or when it comes to everything else that deals with the competition, you know, I gave him the keys, and he was able to just help me with everything. So anyway, with his passing, it just kind of made me just sit and just reflect a little bit. And unfortunately, I haven't competed, since he's passed away, even though I know that would be something that would make him happy, right? If I continue to compete and go further. But not having him around, it definitely changed a lot of things for me. The way my mindset, the way I was thinking as far as competition goes.
Yeah, and it speaks volumes just how important it is to have not just a coach, but like you said, somebody who believes in you and can, push you when you need to be pushed, but somebody that, you can also confide in too. And it's that support really that allows us to be our fullest, reach our fullest potential on stage and execute. So I think it speaks volumes to just how important having a really good coach in your corner is. Even for, athletes like yourself, and myself, I've competed with and without coaches. I always feel better, even me having that second set of eyes and that accountability, everything, right? Because it's you can be Mike Tyson sitting in the corner, where you still need a corner man to tell you from a different perspective things that you might not see, right?
Absolutely, you do need that. And he was the one too that would, if it wasn't for him, I could honestly say if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have kept competing. Just because it just seemed like so much to me at that time, right? Again, when I had started in my first competition, I just went online, right? Went on YouTube. What are some diets I could pull up and maybe do to enter this competition? That's how I looked at it until I met him. So me really getting on a regimen, me really getting on a schedule, and me really having to do this, and that. I was like, this is too much for something that I'm not really taking serious. But he made me really realize, hey, this is something serious. This is something that you're good at. This is something I feel like you can be very successful at. You'll be Miss Olympia. And this was back in 2010. I was like, yeah, right. Especially competing against Aaron or competing against Nicole or Candace or Sydney. It's like, there's no way I would be Miss Olympia because I wasn't taking it serious enough at the time. But once I had him in my head to really show me this can be done, just something clicked. Something clicked in 2011, and I just took off. Like, I was like, I can do this. I have someone telling me I can do this, someone that's actually helping me, someone that is a bodybuilder himself. So he had the experience. It wasn't just he came out of nowhere and was a coach. This was someone that was competitive himself.
Right.
So pretty much like living vicariously, right, through me, I feel like he was, because of course his goal was to always become pro, always, you know, hit the Olympia stage. And I did all those things. We were able to do all those things and accomplish those things together.
Yeah. And I know that loss sits heavy, right? And it's like, no matter how you slice it, and it's somebody that was close to you and it believed in you. So it is hard to replace that.
Yes.
But I have confidence too with time and with your genetics, your structure, your history in the sport. If you wanted to come back, I have absolutely no doubts you would be a force to be reckoned with. So, you know, and here's the thing is, like, our journeys evolve, right? I mean, I'm with you on that. There was a time, you know, from all the way back in my powerlifting days through my Olympia days, there was a time where that was my goal. Like, I want to be the baddest I can possibly be. I want to be one of the absolute best in the world at what I'm doing. And as we get older, sometimes it's not that we lose that competitive fire, it's that it translates or shifts into different things, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, you know, it's definitely translated into being a coach, and the same exact intangibles and mindset that I had as an elite competitor, I, you know, put into my athletes. I put it into my coaching. I put it into being a gym owner, a supplement store owner, you know, everything. So you can be competitive in other ways too, if we decide that, hey, there's going to come a day where maybe the stage isn't serving us anymore and it's not adding value. So now how else can I use this, you know, this mindset, this championship mindset?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Latoria, I want to talk about your training split for a little bit too. I know that, you know, your physique was extremely well polished front to back, but one thing that always stood out is your back, right? So back, glutes, hamstrings. Maybe walk us through, what did your training split look like when you were at your best, especially as you were kind of intensifying things, you know, down the stretch heading into an Olympia?
Well, the thing that I love most about my training split, just overall, I always stuck to one body part, right? Which I'm assuming a lot of athletes do, but I stuck to one body part, hit that particular body part, depending on what it was, a few more times a week. So my splits were shoulders, back, shoulders, right? Next following week, it could be back, back, or back, shoulders, back. So I would hit my back probably more often, but usually depending on where I was in my during my prep anyway, things could change. But usually I was always hitting that one body part, and it would be back more than likely twice a week. We stuck to specific exercises, probably about 5, always hit about 5 exercises, stuck to those. And then it was just something that I continuously done. It's funny, when we would start training and a couple of weeks went in, 4 weeks went in, 6 weeks went in, I would do those same workouts. And I was starting to be like, man, this is a joke. How am I going to, you know, how is anything going to happen here if I'm doing these workouts over and over, these same workouts? And then he was like, just trust me. Right. And that was the thing with Manny, just trust me. This is what you need to do. I need to find out where your strength's at. We need to get the density here. We need to get the, you know, that thickness here and there. And I would just listen to him, and we would do those same workouts over and over and over and over again. And obviously it worked out for me. Right.
Yeah, so I want you guys at home taking notes here, because I say this all the time. And look, it's like it's gonna look a little different depending on how much muscle and their current foundation and how fast they grow. But the reality is, we should not be changing workouts every single month. And you know, I will get that request, because Latoria, I know you've worked with plenty of athletes too, and you know, sometimes it's like, coach, I'm bored. This workout is
that's it.
It's like,
you gotta be bored. When you're bored, you're doing it right. When you're bored, you're doing it right. If you're having too much fun in the gym, I mean, you can have fun in the gym, because I did. I definitely had fun in the gym, but in those early stages of me not understanding, right? And that's I decided to, you know, put my trust into someone that knew this, and that's what I had to do. Yeah, I had those, you know, those doubts, and I had those comments that I came with, but for the most part, let your coach do what they do, especially if they're experienced, they know what they're doing. And, you know, fortunately, that's what I did. But yeah, in the beginning stages, I was like, this is a joke. There's no way this coach is just saying this and he's just saying that. Or at the time you're thinking maybe this coach is taking your money. I know a lot of them probably are thinking that. They're just taking my money. We're doing the same things. But believe me, everyone watching, it pays off. Yes, doing those same repetitive exercises pays off. You're getting that muscle memory, right? That muscle mind connection, and you're developing those muscles, and again, allowing those muscles to tear and break down and recover, and doing it all over again. That's the trick. That's it. There's no magic pill. That's it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, you don't have to completely blow up your entire framework, and you can still avoid plateau by doing basic progressions and intensifiers with, you know, we can increase training density with cluster sets, rest pause, drop sets, supersets, you name it. Like, there's so much stuff that you can do without completely blowing up your training block. So
absolutely,
take note on that, guys. And, you know, again, you kind of heard it from Latoria in terms of, you know, wash, rinse, repeat was a huge staple in her routine to building her, you know, Miss Olympia back. So definitely work with your coach on that. One other thing I want to touch on before we wrap, because I know we're running a little short on time.
Okay.
Life after the stage. This is an important one. We kind of alluded to it a little bit with my transition from athlete to coach to business owner. But, you know, when we think about what that identity shift looks like post, I don't even want to say post competition. We'll say as we're in the twilight and our career starting to, on stages, maybe starting to wind down a little bit.
Okay.
We have new goals, right? We have maybe newfound purpose. You know, with that in mind, how do people make that transition? So life after the stage, how do they set themselves up for success? Especially if, you know, maybe they want to stay attached to the sport or to health and fitness.
Absolutely. I mean, during the time you're competing, maybe that should be something that's on your mind, which it was for me. You know, trying to figure out what avenues I wanted to take as I did transition into retirement. I wouldn't consider myself retired, but at the time when I do decide to completely, you know, leave the stage, what is it I want to do? So those things should, I would say, be on your mind as you're competing, or as you're, you know, still competing, but transitioning into that phase. I think that you should just always take that knowledge, all the knowledge that you have developed, everything that you have learned during this journey, find a way to figure out how to process that, or maybe find a way to make sure you're able to still motivate those that are following you, motivate those that are surrounding you. Maybe you do want to stay in the sport. As for me, I did that. I wanted to still stay in the sport, even though I was actively competing, and even though I had took some time away, wasn't completely retired. Because I still don't consider myself retired, but I wanted to still stay in the sport. What are some things I could do? So I continued to do seminars, which I still do. I participate in the seminars. You know, I give back. I put my time into posing clinics, also judging. So also I wanted to kind of see what it's like being behind the table instead of being on the stage. I want to be behind the table and see what those judges have to go through. So I decided to go test, probably back in 2019, maybe 2019, 2020. I decided to go and test, see if I could be a judge. And then I started judging shows, and I had a total different mindset on how everything looked and how those judges, you know, I know they get a lot of criticism and everything like that because it's a subjective sport, but being able to sit behind a table and judge and look at all the competitors, I mean, that was something different for me, but it was a way for me to stay within the sport, stay involved, still inspire, still motivate, you know, because that was something for when the athletes would come off the stage to come and talk to me. Hey, what are some critiques? What are this and what is that? And just seeing it in a different light, that meant everything to me. So yeah, I feel like just take that knowledge, take it and transition it into the next step for you, whatever that may be.
I love it, right? All those attributes, the discipline, the motivation, the self-efficacy and confidence, all that stuff you can take away from the stage and apply it to work or being a parent or relationship, whatever that might look like for you.
Absolutely.
But the key is, you hit it on the nail on the head there, is pay it forward, right? We've learned too much, we've come too far, and now it's time to give back. So we're going to pay that forward to the next generation of athletes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Latoria, we're about out of time there. We are going to wrap, but you know, one key takeaway that I want to leave our followers with is really what relentless truly means, right? And we're talking about Olympia champions. We're talking about competing at the highest level of the sport. It's no matter what, we get up, we do the work. right? We do the work on the good days. We do the work on the bad days, when things go as planned, when things don't go as planned.
Yep.
You know, we don't let it shake us. We're going to stay relentless. We stay focused. We're going to dig deep within ourselves, and we're going to find greatness.
Yes, that's what it's about. Being consistent.
And consistency. Yes. Not, you know, hey, not today I feel like doing it, tomorrow I don't. So stay consistent. Absolutely. Latoria, let our followers know where they can find you online on, you know, Instagram, YouTube. What are the best ways for them to reach out to you?
Best ways to reach out to me, I would say Instagram. Yeah, just my name, Latorya Watts. Reach out to me, DM me. I do posing. So you can always reach out and we can schedule from there.
Perfect. Sounds good. And you guys already know how to get a hold of your boy. You can catch me online on Instagram at AndreAdams_official. You can follow along on the website, AndreAdamsOfficial.com or TeamAdamsPrep.com. And then by email, of course, at trainingbydre@gmail.com. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into an amazing episode. Thank you again, Latoria, for joining us. And we'll see you guys next time on the Peak Physique Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Peak Physique Podcast. Subscribe for elite strategies and cutting-edge insights from IFBB Olympian Andre Adams.